Was the ancient robot actually a famous demon giant from the past? Or was this monstrous machine actually once a human being whose soul ended up being fused with this giant iron body? And also, was there a hidden message at the end of this chapter that everyone ended up missing? Well, the One Piece manga has left us once again with a lot of really exciting new questions and also some really interesting answers. And now that we know that the Iron Giant is not only alive and sentient, but also has a name called Emeth, it seems more and more likely that this robot is actually way more important than we ever imagined. However, before we fully dive into Emeth's purpose in the story, we first need to understand what he actually is and how he came to be in this weird form. Because I'd bet almost everything, and I think you'd probably too, that this is not just a regular simple robot. In fact, there's a very real possibility that Emeth could have been an actual human who was somehow transformed into a robot or kind of infused into one. And this is not as crazy an idea as it might have sounded before the Egghead Island arc, because now we do know for sure that the Ancient Kingdom was actually highly technologically advanced. And I mean, just take for one example all the crazy scientific experiments that we've seen Vegapunk do recently with Kuma. This man managed to turn a human being into a machine, a cyborg, so who is to say that the even way more advanced Ancient Kingdom couldn't have made an even better and bigger transformation in the past as well? In fact, given everything we've seen with brains and body transformations, it seems pretty possible to me that someone could have downloaded the original Emmet's mind or consciousness and then uploaded them into this robot. The other question is, why would anyone want to do this? Well, if Joy Boy and his allies knew that they were going to be defeated, they could have made plans for some of their crew to survive until the future, where they could actually begin the battle against the world government once again. However, while the idea that a human got downloaded into a robot is the simplest option and maybe even the most likely, there are actually some other ideas that I am personally way more excited about. The first of which is the secret power of the Buccaneer race. Now, since this is something we learned about pretty recently, it's still something we don't fully understand, but in chapter 1104, we learned that Kuma's body should have been completely dead. Saint Saturn himself had said that he already pushed the self-destruct button on Kuma, so there was no way he should have still been able to move. And yet, there he was punching the evil Gorosei straight in the face. Funnily enough, this even shocked Vegapunk, who wondered if Kuma was able to continue living on in his dead body because, as he said, Buccaneers were said to have a special characteristic. And now you might remember back in my review from that chapter way back, we speculated that this special Buccaneer power allows their souls to return from the dead and linger around in the world. You know, kind of similar to what Brook's Devil Fruit lets him do as well. Then again, Emeth was completely underwater, so that option does seem less likely. However, there are some even darker options for how Emeth might have become a robot, and to really explain this, let me take you to yet another anime, because in the very first episode of Full Metal Alchemist, the brothers Edward and Alphonse were conducting forbidden alchemical rituals to bring back their dead mother from the dead. However, as you'd expect, things went horribly wrong and Alphonse's soul got fused to a nearby suit of armor, completely losing his physical body. And based on the Gorosei summoning circles and all of these strange abilities we've seen recently in One Piece, I honestly wouldn't be that surprised that something like this could have actually happened in the distant past that caused Emeth to be in his current state. I mean, you kind of have that entire theme of advanced civilization using forbidden technology or, you know, whatever science, and then ending up destroying the world. And more specifically, perhaps the Ancient Kingdom discovered a way to increase someone's lifespan, but for Emeth, the ritual went wrong and he lost his body as a result. Or let's make this even darker somehow and imagine that in order for the Gorosei to gain eternal life, they actually had to sacrifice someone like Emeth. And honestly, these are just some ideas that immediately popped into my head. And as you can see, there are actually several ways that could explain how a human Emeth could have ended up in that robot body. However, Emeth doesn't necessarily have to be human. And one other very real possibility is that he was from a much larger and much more powerful race that basically does not exist anymore today. And the giveaway here is, if you look at the horns on top of the robot's head, they remind me a lot of similar horns that we have seen in the past, such as Kaido's house or the race of the so-called demon giants like Ors and Ors Jr.